Associate Director at IDP Education. He handles pre and post operations in India and has a rich experience of about 19 years related to operations, people management, and account management. He's been associate with IELTS for more than 8 years now. Welcome, Varun.
Thanks for having me on board.
Next, we have Yatendra Sharma. Yatendra is heading the PTE Marketing of India and Hub countries. He has an experience of 10 plus years in different fields: telecom, retail, internet, e-commerce, education, and he's been associated with Pearson for more than 3 years. Welcome, Yatendra.
Thank you, Simran. Looking forward to the session. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so just a quick word about Shiksha Study Abroad. So we are the #1 college research platform for students in India. In the last financial year, 1st April 2019 to 31st March, we got 17 million online users to visit us, 17 million online sessions, and 190,000 of them actually registered with us. So that's about us. We also have a counseling service, which we'll talk more about as we proceed with the session. So what are the topics that we will cover in the today's session? We'll start with everybody's most favorite question. What are the test centers? When are the test centers opening? How many are opening? What are the safety precautions they are taking? What would our panelists advise the students? What about students who have already booked their exams and those exams are getting postponed due to certain reasons? Rescheduling and travel restrictions, discussion about at-home tests, which some tests have launched, an impact on duration, timing, and results due to the COVID lockdowns. So let's just start with our first set of questions. When are the test centers opening? So let me start with Shrikant first. Shrikant, can you share some idea about, when are the ETS test centers opening in the country?
Absolutely. So they are actually opening as we speak, and most of them are actually open. Through June, we expect that more than 80% of our test center network in India will be opened throughout June. And then through July and August, we expect that the vast majority of them, if not all of them, will be open. So we expect return to near normality from sort of mid-June to the end of August.
Right, sure. Varun, what about IELTS centers, IDP centers for IELTS?
Yep. So for IDP IELTS, we talk about the computer delivered centers. We are actually live in more than 7 cities now, and we are opening in a staggered manner. When we get approval from the authorities, the government authorities, we are getting them inspected and doing it. So as we speak, increasing number of centers are going live. If we talk about paper-based, that's paper-based test. That's where the hotel and everything would go live from 8. We'll speak to the hotels and the authorities, and we'll update status to our candidates there.
Jitendra, what about PTE centers?
So we are actually open. So like most of our test centers are open by talking to you. So yours, Ahmedabad, Amritsar, Bangalore. So it is already open in 16 cities while we are talking. So 21 test centers which are already open in India, and also the hub countries. There are other test centers which are already open. There are more test centers which are going live on 8 and 9. So there are which are going live on coming Monday and Tuesday. So which comes out to be a total of 29 test centers which will be live by Tuesday.
Sure. And Jitendra, will that cover almost all your centers, or will that be some centers will still remain?
Yeah, so there'll be a few more. So we have like 37 centers in India. Out of 37, 29 will be ready by coming Tuesday, and rest you can expect another week or so.
So is there a place where students can find where the test centers are open?
Yeah, absolutely. So to support this student journey, since we are already informing these mediums, so what we are doing is we have created a blog page which is available on in.pearson.com/blogs. So people can find a blog section which talks about reopening of test center, which updates on a daily basis in the morning. So whenever there is a change in the test center, people can refer. So while I'm talking to you, you can see what all cities are live. And whenever someone is struggling with those type of, look, they are not able to locate something and they're having some trouble, we are available information at our call center as well. So which is available on our website, which is in.pearson.com/blogs. They can actually see what our test centers are open out there.
Sure. What can you share about IDP IELTS?
About the test centers?
Yeah, which centers are open? How can students find which are those which are available?
Sure. So as we speak, we have a dashboard on our website, way.com. So the students can go there, look whichever center, the computer delivery centers are open, and book accordingly. Secondly, we've got a call center. We've got our customer care team, which is working. So they can contact us through emails, through calls, and we'll be happy to assist them with that.
Okay. And Shrikant, what about ETS?
Yeah, so people can go into the same place where they look for seats and register, which is on our global registration system, and all the information is updated there. So they can easily search by the city they're in and when they want to test, and they'll get all the updated information in terms of which centers are open and what dates are available. So as of now, we have 16 cities that are already open, which I mentioned is about 80% of our network, including Delhi, Kolkata, Hyderabad, and so on. I think Chennai, it's not open at this point, and also Mumbai because of the red zone restrictions there. But again, over the next 30 days, all those should be open as well.
Sure. So just to summarize, as you've heard, majority of the test centers are opening, except the ones which are in the containment zones or cities which are severely impacted.
Yeah.
But other than that, you can find the list of all these test centers on their respective websites, where you can go and can book an exam on these test centers. Okay, let me move ahead. What safety precautions are being taken by test centers? How are the test centers ensuring social distancing? So Shrikant, let me start with you here. Can you share something more on this question?
Yeah, so we have provided extensive learning for all our test centers. But I think the safety and health of both our test takers as well as our test center staff is paramount. And we have provided guidelines in a way that those are maintained without compromising the security aspect of the test that we take very importantly. So let me give you a few examples. Obviously, where there are guidelines, if masks have to be worn, then masks are fully allowed, right? So students can wear masks throughout the test, including in our speaking section. Our speaking section is done in front of a computer.
Right.
So people can still wear the mask during that. In various points, the students interact with the test center staff. But we've modified a lot of those procedures so that the appropriate distance is maintained. For example, when the photo is taken, the webcam is kept at a certain distance, 6 feet away, through a cord. Another example is we usually use warning. We warn students to make sure there are no devices on their person. We have suspended that. There's a photo that's taken, there's a voice check that is done before the test begins. And that involves some interaction with the proctor. So we have suspended that. So when somebody is taking the test, and if they need another piece of paper to take notes, usually the proctor would come and hand it to them where they're sitting. But in this instance, the test takers will be asked to move away for a few seconds, and then the proctor would place the paper on their workstation. These are just a few examples of how, at every step of the process, we ensured that distance is maintained between the test taker and the proctor.
Sure. And Varun, what about IDP IELTS for online test centers?
So for IDP IELTS, the necessary precautions are taken. In fact, it's needless to say the security and safety of our staff and our candidates is paramount for us. So right from the moment a person enters, a candidate enters our facility, we've got hand sanitizers there. There'll be a body check that those thermometers which will be there, the thermometer guns. So once they're allowed in, adequate at least 6 feet distance is kept between two candidates. It can be two individuals, let it be candidates or a invigilator or a staff out there. So a 6 feet distance is bare minimum, which we've ensured is adhered to at our centers. We've got hand sanitizer at each stage, at different stages. And the best USP, I would say, out here was because in quite a few centers, we've invited government authorities to come over and inspect our sites so that all of us are satisfied that yes, the norms are adhered to, and they're very happy. They'll go back very happy. You can start the very next day itself. So adequate arrangements are done as far as the safety of our candidates is concerned.
Sure. And is it going to be something similar in paper-based tests when they start post 8th of June?
Absolutely. Needless to say, necessary precautions and adherence to the government guidelines would be taken. So candidates don't have to worry as far as the COVID precautions are concerned, let it be a paper-based test or a computer-based test. All precautions, in fact, more than them, are being adhered to.
Sure. So let me actually show you some data that we pulled out from our website. We wanted to give some sense to our audience as to what are the most common scores that students get while preparing for these exams. And all of this is based on the data that we have for the last 12 months. So as you can see, in terms of IELTS score, 6.5 is the most common IELTS score, with about 30% people getting that, followed by 7, which is 25%. And then followed by 6. If you go to TOEFL, now I don't know whether these are representative for the larger set that all of you are seeing at your end, but this is basis the Shiksha data. I thought it will still give a flavor to students in terms of what is the average median scores. So we've clubbed this into ranges of 10. So about 90 to 100 and 100 to 111. So these are the two most popular buckets in terms of score for a TOEFL score. I'll move forward to GRE and PTE. So in GRE, 301 to 311, that's the bucket. That's the most common score that people are getting. Followed by 291 to 301, followed by 311 to 321. And as you go on the sides, it reduces. And for PTE, 50 to 60 is the largest category of score, followed by 60 to 70, and then 70 to 81. This was just a quick segue. So let me go to Yatendra. Yatendra, same question to you, but from a perspective of a student, right? Our panelists have shared what precautions the centers are taking. What would you advise the students? Should they be bringing their own masks? Should they be bringing their own water bottles? How should they go about preparing?
Sure. So thank you for this question. I think because all of us are concerned about the student safety, that's something we are actually putting our level best to ensure that there are no misses from any of the ends. So whenever we are having any dialogue with the customers and whatever the communication we have, do we send all the guidelines, procedures, etc. However, what we ensure is whenever there is a test taker who arrives at the test center, we ensure they use the hand sanitizer, which is available in the waiting area. Also, candidate must wear a mask any given point of time. So we are not allowing anyone that who are not wearing the mask to get the test, because it's a mandate from the government. At the same time, one of our panelists mentioned about it is allowed to, they can wear the mask while talking giving the speaking section as well. So the same is the case here. It is important that they have to wear the mask while even speaking in the speaking section. They will have to carry the mask. You're right. So you ask this question, they'll have to carry their mask. So we just need to ensure that it is whenever they're entering the premises, they must wear the mask, and we give this guidance to all the test takers well in advance. we have actually deployed the effective plan of action and answer cleaning and disinfecting designs in between the testing appointments. So when there is a one candidate who actually leave the machine, and when the other candidate comes, so there are like very stringent procedure what we follow to ensure there is no risk to the other candidate. Actually, every candidate will be required to acknowledge whenever they're entering that he or she meets above the health requirement, will comply with the health and safety guidelines whatever we issue to them and as per the government. And 6 feet distance, which is I think mentioned by other team members, other colleagues as well. 6 feet is the distance which is mandatory to have. So all the test centers, whatever we have actually reduced the capacity in terms of we are ensuring that there's 6 feet space is maintained out there. Also, we permit the candidate to to use the disposable gloves if they want to. And however, post giving the exam, they will have to dispose in front of the vacillator at the exam center.
Sure. Varun, same question to you. Should they bring their own water bottles? And another question has come, if you can take up. So we'll be taking some questions related to the topics that we are discussing. So Rahul Saini has put a question saying, can I bring my own pen and paper to the center? So what advice would you give them?
Yes, so I'll start off with the mask first. Yes, the candidates are supposed to carry the mask, and it's a mandatory requirement at the test center. So not only the candidates, even the invigilators, the staff would be wearing a mask there, just to ensure that the health of any candidate or the staff is not compromised. Pen, yes, the candidate can get the pen along with them. Papers, we provide adequate number of papers which are placed before the candidate sits for the test. They'll be placed at the table, so they can use those papers there, just to ensure that the papers don't have anything pre-written out there. And if we talk about water, we have adequate number of mineral water bottles available there. But yes, if a candidate feels he or she wants to carry his own water, they are free to do so. Till the time they they carry the bottle, the water in a transparent container without any logos or without any content written on that. They are free to do that, and we even provide water there as well. So just to add on, even after a sanitizer, right before the test starts off, the equipments and the desks and everything are sanitized, properly sanitized, and after every use, the same is sanitized again, just to ensure that there's no chance of any from the equipments or the desks.
Sure. I have another question which has come related to the comment that one of our panelists made, and this is from Ujjwala, and please any one of you can take this up. She's saying, I'm not comfortable wearing a mask if I have to give a speaking test. So is that mandatory to wear a mask, or is it optional for a speaking test?
So I can take that because I think that might have been for TOEFL. It is not mandatory. So if the student brings a mask and chooses to use it during our speaking section, they're welcome to do so, but it is not required at all.
Okay, great. Let me move ahead. Right. So there's a huge backlog of test takers. There were people who had already booked their exams for March, April, probably May also. However, due to the sudden announcement of the lockdown, these students were not able to give their exams. And they had their dates postponed, and some of them had multiple postponements of their dates. So, Shrikant, let me start with you here. Will these students be given priority, or will they see more postponements happen?
No, I think the students that were backlogged will clearly be given priority as we fill in the seats that are opening rapidly as we speak. But we expect the backlog to be cleared pretty quickly, not only because of what I mentioned before, which is test centers are opening up rapidly over the next month and beyond that, but also because we have our home edition of the TOEFL. So our TOEFL IBT special home edition has been available since the beginning of April worldwide, including in India, and people wherever they are in India from their home, they can use their own computer and take the test under secure conditions. We have live human proctors that proctor the test. So it's exactly the same experience as the regular IBT. It's the same test, but just administered at home under high security conditions. I think that is another option that students have, in addition to the test centers that are opening up quickly. So between the two, I think we will not really have much of a backlog very soon.
Okay. Jitendra, what about PTE? Do you have backlogs running for past students? How long is that backlog going to take to clear?
So while we are talking, we have already cleared 50% of the backlog. Since I mentioned that there are 21 test centers which are already live, and in fact we have enough capacity available. So people can book the test. So what we have done is we have since there was an uncertain situation, what we have done is we have given the safe bucket all the test takers whomsoever wanted to reschedule their test. So it is lying in one of the bucket from where they can reschedule the test whenever they want it. We have whenever there is a test center going live, the information is already given to them through the multiple mediums, and then they are scheduling the test themselves. So while talking that 50% backlog have already been cleared, and we are hoping in the coming week or so, I think the rest of the backlog will also be cleared. And the new test bookings are also available. So like there are enough slots which are available. We have extended our hours wherever was required. So there are enough slots available. People can actually give the test any given time as per their convenience.
What about IDP IELTS? How big a backlog are you running, and do you see it clearing soon?
Sure. So yes, there's backlog. As I just said, we've opened up quite a few centers, the computer delivered centers. So the backlog for those centers are more or less we're taking care of it, or they are more or less gone. We've even offered our paper-based candidates to switch over to computer delivered test without any additional fees. So there's no transfer, any fees charged to them. They can, at free of cost, they can just move on from a PB to a CD scenario, which is a paper-based to a computer-delivered scenario. And as and when we open up the paper-based test, the candidates will get the information well in advance so that they can prepare for it and come for the test there, for the paper-based quiz. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just take one or two more questions. And Shrikant, maybe you see whether you can address some of these. One is related to TOEFL. Sunita Sharma is asking, during the COVID lockdown, can my child access the study material on the TOEFL website? And the second question is by Jigar Mehta. He's saying, especially for students applying to the US, we are hearing news that it is not necessary to appear for GRE for fall 2020. How much of that is true?
So the first question is in terms of being able to access TOEFL materials from our global website. Absolutely. So everything is continuing as normal. And in fact, what we have seen is a lot more interest and engagement with the materials that we put out on the website. Because when people have some downtime, a lot of people have actually taken the time to prepare better for when tests are opening. So we would definitely encourage our students to do that. With respect to the second question, I think there was a question on GRE. Could you repeat that, Simran, if you don't mind?
Sure. Especially for students applying to the US, we are hearing news that it is not necessary to appear for GRE for fall 2020, fall 21. How much of that is true?
Well, obviously, universities are faced with a challenging situation, right? So whether it's opening the campuses, offering more online options, or in some cases, offering a whole semester online. So universities are doing different things to meet their enrollment and recruitment goals. Some of them are also being a little more flexible on testing requirements, especially when it comes to entrance tests, including the GRE. So, I mean, what I would advise is that, candidates should check with each university what their specific requirements are. But from what we have seen in ETS, while there may be few instances where universities are maybe postponing or deferring their requirements, in the vast majority of cases, that hasn't really changed. People still require the GRE for graduate admissions, especially quality institutions.
Right. I can second that on Shrikant, that whatever we are also seeing, most universities are still asking for GRE, and certainly there is no change for fall 2021 that any university has announced in advance. So you need to give GRE as you were giving before. Okay, let me move on to next question in terms of rescheduling and travel restrictions. And let me start with Jitendra. So Jitendra, students who are not able to attend the test due to intercity state travel restrictions, what advice would you give them? There are certain questions coming related to this, that I am in my hometown, but my train services haven't resumed, or I am in my containment zone, and though I cannot attend the exam that I've already booked. So what would you advise them?
Sure. So actually, you know that most of the government have already opened the travel, and while we're talking, there's more which are opening. Interstate, interstate and the interstate travel is allowed in most of the cities. However, what I really suggest to such students are, like, we have a test centers in most of the cities, and from where most of these students comes. But however, if you still see that there are challenges, what we really need, I would suggest is, I think we'll have to follow the government guidelines out here, because it's for the safety of all of us. So it is always the best that we follow the guideline. But I'm actually, by following the news and whatever we observe, I'm seeing that these restrictions will be, lot of the restrictions will be removed in the coming week, especially if we started from 8th of June. So I believe that problem of not able to travel, I think that should get sorted. However, most of the cities are already covered. So from where most of these abroad studies student life, and they are already open. People can travel, they can get the test. There are enough slots available, and they can choose as per their convenience.
Okay. So you are advising them to go for the nearest center that might be available, in case the one is not available, right? Shrikant, ETS recently waived the rescheduling fees due to the COVID lockdowns, and with the partial reopening, some students may still be in a situation like the question I asked before, that they may have booked the test, they may not be able to attend it, they may still need to reschedule it. So this rescheduling fee waiver still applies, or is it going to be discontinued?
No, it very much still applies, and it will be continued until such time that the situation comes back to normal. So as an example, we've already, so people can take the test in a center, as we know, right? But they can also take it at home. And you can easily move between the two options. So let's say if you've already registered in a center, and for any reason, if you wanted to reschedule the appointment in a test center to a different date, for example, for whatever reason, we waive rescheduling fees there. If you want to change your test center appointment to an at-home testing appointment, no charge. That's also, and it's all easily done. In most cases, all you have to do is to contact the customer service representative, and they will help you to do it very quickly. So we provided maximum flexibility for students to pick the testing format and the date that is convenient for them. And in order to provide as much flexibility for the TOEFL IBT home edition, right, the one you can take at home, we actually have it running for 4 days every week. So currently it runs Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And on each day, it runs for 24 hours, right? So every hour, a new test launches. So there's a lot of capacity. So people will have no issues of getting the slot they want on most of the week. The other news I can also share with you today is that, initially when we launched the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition, we opened it until the end of June. So we have decided now to extend it until the end of September, because the situation still hasn't come back to normal. And from July, we are shifting the dates. So now the 4 days of the week will be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for TOEFL. And then for GRE, it'll be all 7 days a week from July 1.
Okay.
So the GRE at home version also is being extended until the end of September.
Okay. So we'll just move to the next section. I think one question has come, and maybe Varun, if you can take it. Praveer Pragyai has asked a question. Is there any plan to increase the number of slots for IELTS every month? If yes, then how many days gap should be there between two IELTS tests for a candidate?
Yes, if you talk about paper base, we are looking at increasing the frequency in the coming days and months. Computer level IELTS happens every day, so every day and multiple times a day. So increasing the frequency doesn't really matter there. As a candidate, I can sit for 2 tests in a day. That's absolutely fine. You can book 2 slots in a day, 2 different slots, and they can go and appear. So that you don't have to maintain that minimum gap between one test and the second one. You can pick and choose your dates, your slots, and appear for IELTS test as per your requirement.
Okay. So moving ahead, this is some more data that we pulled from our database in terms of which state students score the most in these exams. So what's the average score by each state? And these are obviously based on Shiksha database. We have considerable sample size here. So for example, the average IELTS score is highest for students who are giving it from Goa. And Goa, West Bengal, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Delhi are in the top. And if you see Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Punjab are in the bottom. It just probably shows you the natural English speaking ability of some of those students. And similar trends for TOEFL. If you see here, the states Gujarat, Punjab, Andhra Pradesh remain below, and Chandigarh, Goa, Assam. So some of the English speaking states are coming on top. Also, similar trend for GRE. People from Orissa, Jharkhand, Assam, Delhi score higher compared to people from Andhra, Telangana, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh. So the average GRE scores by state of the data that we have on our register is varying by states quite a bit. PT scores are not varying that much, but there is obviously some variation. Again, Gujarat coming below, Telangana coming below, Punjab coming quite below. Compared to some of the other better states, English-speaking states. So let me now move ahead and talk about at-home tests. As some of our panelists have already mentioned, both ETS, IELTS have launched at-home test options. So let me first go to Shrikant here. Shrikant, ETS, as you were saying, has introduced at-home tests for GRE and TOEFL. That will be monitored by a human proctor. Will those tests be still available with the partial reopening? You've answered that, saying that they will be extended. But are the marks of those tests going to be at par with the marks of the offline test? What kind of an acceptability are you seeing with the universities with the scores of an at-home test vis-a-vis a normal test?
Right. So both the TOEFL and GRE at-home tests are exactly the same test as the test center versions. So when somebody is taking and experiencing those tests at their home, it's the exact same experience that they find in a test center. So the content, the format, the on-screen experience, as well as the scoring and the score scale are identical, right? So that means the scores can be used exactly in the same way for high-stakes admissions purposes, both for TOEFL and GRE. And that's why the acceptance is universal or near universal. So we have communicated obviously with thousands of universities. TOEFL is accepted by almost 11,000 institutions in over 150 countries worldwide. And we've communicated with pretty much all of them. And we have not heard even one university that has said they're not going to accept it. So the acceptance from universities is universal for TOEFL and GRE. It's important to point out that not all universities mention the IBT home edition on their website. Right. Because for them, why should we do that? It's the same thing as IBT. Some universities have also mentioned it specially. So I just want students to understand that they should know that the acceptance of TOEFL IBT is universal, and the same thing for GRE also.
Right. And Shrikant, if I can follow up a question on that, you have mentioned detailed instructions of what system requirements a student should have before he tries to attempt to give an exam from home. But there's also this question about power cuts in India, internet connection not being very stable. So what we've seen at Shiksha is that we haven't seen a very high uptake of these at-home tests compared to what we saw and what we anticipated initially. So what's your take on that? Do you think students should be encouraged to give these tests, or now with the offline centers opening, you would still say need not give an at-home test, better give when an offline center again?
So what we want to do, Simran, is to provide the student all the options, right? And really, students should do what they're most comfortable with. So, for example, if they're in a city and centers are open and available, and there's easy, safe travel available, and if that's what they prefer, there's no reason for them not to do that, right? But some students also prefer the environment at home because they have less noise and distractions. So I think it really depends on the student and what their preference is. But let me address the point you raised, which I think is an important one. As you rightly said, before we ask students to pay the fees and register for the test, we make sure that they do the equipment checks, because we don't want students to pay money and commit to doing this unless their computer is certified as ready, right? So we have two separate checks that we ask them to go through. So that's number one. But you're right. Despite that, there could be some internet issues, power issues when they're doing the test. Most important thing to keep in mind is that the student is not penalized if that happens. So, for example, if it's we have a 3-hour test, which is the IBT home edition, right? If there's some delay in the test because of bad internet bandwidth issues, that time is not lost.
Okay.
So the time picks up again when the connection is restored. The student does not suffer. And if there are issues that prevent them from completing the test, then of course there's a free reschedule, and they don't have, they're not penalized as having a bad score or anything like that. So, but we have seen a growing number of students from India participate in the home edition. We have about 160 countries around the world from where students have participated in the test, including many from India, and that's growing. So I would advise students not to be concerned about technology or power issues, but really decide for themselves which they prefer, home or in the test center.
Okay. So, Varun, let me come over to you. IELTS have also launched a IELTS Indicator test. And how do you look at IELTS Indicator? Is that a stopgap you introduced only during the COVID, or do you also see it getting extended, as ETS was saying? Or do you think that was only for temporary situation, and then post that situation is now normalizing with centers opening, the test will be discontinued?
Yes, it is an interim solution which we have, especially for the COVID thing, and it's happening globally, the IELTS Indicator. So Indicator would go off once we have our complete testing in place. So it's there as of now. But yes, once we have the complete testing in place, once all our candidates across India are able to access their tests in the closest of the respective cities, Indicator would gradually go off. Indicator was primarily there to give unconditional offer for applications to the universities, so that the candidate can secure the seat there at the universities. So which has done. Indicator in such a short span, we've got many universities recognizing Indicator at par with IELTS. And candidates can go read more about IELTS Indicator at the website, which is IELTSindicator.com. So just to answer your question in one line, Indicator is an interim solution as of now.
Right. And how are you dealing with solutions, the problems related to internet, bandwidth, power cuts? How are you solving those issues?
Sure. So even before a candidate books a test for Indicator, he or she will have the minimum system requirement there at our website. So they can go through it even before they initiate the booking, check their system requirement, which is not very high-end system requirement which we're looking at. Once they are satisfied, they can go ahead and make the booking and continue. So in Indian scenario, in case there's a lag or maybe the internet drops off, there's a power cut, the test stops then and there itself. So whatever the candidate has attempted, has already written, gets stored, gets saved, and whenever the candidate gets the power back or the internet back, they can continue the test from the place they left. So candidate is not impacted at all as far as power cuts or internet connectivity is concerned.
Okay. And do students need some special cameras in their laptop, or a normal camera will work?
And a normal camera should generally works, and that's why we've got specifications there on our website. We are not looking at a high-end camera there, but yes, a normal camera should work. And the specifications there, yeah.
Sure. And is IELTS indicator also monitored by some human on the other side?
We've got the best part of indicator, I would say, is the speaking test, because speaking in IELTS has always been face-to-face. Let it be a computer-delivered IELTS or a regular IELTS, a paper-based IELTS. Even in our indicator, we've got, we call it a virtual VCS, virtual calling speaking, which is a candidate has to interact with a live person on the other side of the screen, and the examiner marks the speaking test basis the performance done as in the speaking test by the candidate. So yes, for the speaking part, there's a live person sitting across evaluating the candidate as per the speaking guidelines. Yeah.
Right. Jitendra, you did tell me about some option that PT had introduced, but somebody has asked a question, and so I want you to kind of reiterate whether they need to give the option that you introduced or whether they are better off giving the offline test. So Tapan Arora has asked a question: do we have a PTE indicator available just like in case of IELTS?
Yeah, so actually we already have the test which supports the testing at home. That's called Versant, and that's that's a test which is already accepted by multiple universities in all across the globe, Australia, Canada, UK. So most of a lot of universities are already adopting the solution. However, in India, what I suggest is, because the test centers are already open, so I would still recommend that go for the test which is already which happens at the test center, so you can avoid the issues what we just discussed. There can be power cut, there can be there can be internet issues. I think you can avoid those. And so since we all of us know this infra of the country and how does it behave, so I think it's always the best. But because when you are going to the test center, you get the right environment to get the test, and you can score better when you are giving the test in the right environment. So that's what my suggestion is, to Tapan.
Sure. And some of the questions that our students are writing: Devendra Sharma, my daughter wants to sit for TOEFL this year. Can you tell me more about at-home testing solutions? So, Shrikant has already answered. So I'll move forward with our next set of questions. Yeah, so is there going to be any change in the duration of the test due to these safety precautions? And Varun, let me start. Jitendra, let me start with you here only. Do you see the test getting extended because of all the things they're putting in place?
So when you say it's going to be the duration of the test, so like the test, PT is a 3-year test. So it is going to remain 3 years at this point of time. We are not looking for any changes at this point of time, because we are observing all possible safety measures at the test center. So there are enough space to be maintained between one test taker versus another test taker. So we are not making any change at this point of time. Also, since it is complete computer-based test, so we actually try that we are just trying to eliminate most of the possible scenarios where someone has to interact with the no humans. So when you get into the test center, obviously there are some basic checks. We are ensuring that there are minimum distance maintained, and once that is done, you are just away from humans. You are sitting in front of the computer giving test, and whenever you have a question, you raise hand, and then only someone assists you. Otherwise, you can take the break, as per the scheduled break. So that's something what I recommend, that there's no change at this point of time. We are keeping the 3-year test only. However, but we are taking all the all safety precautions, all safety measures at the test center. So that's enough.
Right. And Shrikant, any change in the test duration for ETS, and what would be the duration of, as since you talked about at-home tests, are they also for the same duration, or do you allow people to have breaks in between?
Yeah, it's the same duration as before the COVID. Just to remind our viewers here, in August of last year, we had shortened the duration of the TOEFL test. It used to be over 3.5 hours, and since August of 2019, it's been 3 hours. So that format still continues, whether you take this test in a test center with all the safety precautions that we put in place, or whether you take the test at home. It's the exact same 3 hours. So in the test centers, for example, with all the social distancing and other safety precautions we put in place, none of that affects the actual testing experience once somebody starts the test. Because even the design, even from the beginning, was minimum human contact. So there's no reason for us to change that. So the policy for TOEFL IBT is that there is one planned break of up to 10 minutes after the first two sections before they return for the next two sections. So that still continues unchanged. And in the test center version, people are allowed unscheduled breaks if they should need it. But of course, that comes at the cost of their test time. The only difference I would say is that in the home edition version of the IBT, we also have the planned break for 10 minutes after the, but we do not allow unscheduled breaks in the home edition. So there are some small differences like that. And this is just to ensure that there is 100% security. Because one of the unique characteristics of the TOEFL IBT home edition is that there is live human proctoring from beginning to end. So every section, there's always somebody watching you, and that's just to make sure that all test takers have the same fair experience, that no test taker can get advantage because there's no security provided through a human proctor 100% throughout.
Sure. So there's a question that has come, and I would request if any of our panelists can take it up. This is related to the Duolingo exam. As you may all have heard about it. So students are asking comparisons between IELTS or TOEFL or PTE versus the Duolingo. Would any of you like to comment on it, or should we just move on?
I can make a comment on it if I can.
Sure.
And I can talk about TOEFL just to help people understand the contrast between a high quality test and something like Duolingo. So the first thing to understand is that TOEFL is not just a test of English knowledge. It's a test of English communication that's done in an academic context. And the communication is two-way, right? So if you're in a university classroom in Australia, Canada, the US, or anywhere where you can go with TOEFL, you're communicating to instructors, they're communicating to you, you're communicating with your fellow students, vice versa, right? So it's actual communication, but in an academic context using academic English. That's what TOEFL does. And that's why the test design is very rigorous, and the test simulates the type of tasks that you actually do in a university classroom. Duolingo, from what we've seen, is a test of simple English knowledge. It is not a test of English proficiency, and certainly not a test of English communication. So in that sense, it's inadequate as a test for the university academic context. And that's probably the most important difference that I would point out. In addition to the fact that they don't have any, even though the test is taken at home, there is no human proctoring. It's just the computer. You sit in front of the computer and you take the test. So for us, that's a big security violation and a breach. And that might affect the confidence and the scores that universities receive.
Right. So I would just like to reiterate what Shrikant has said. We've seen that universities are not as open to accepting a Duolingo exam as they are open to accepting the standardized tests, whether it's IELTS, TOEFL, or PTE. And some of the reasons is what our panelist was just telling you. So yeah, just make your decision with those situations in mind. Varun, there's a question that has come on IDP, and maybe you can take it up. Nidhi Jain is asking, I want to send my scores to universities, but the universities are not listed on the website. Previously, I used to go to the IDP center to do the additional score reporting. How should I do it now?
We've got the on our website we've got a candidate login section, so candidate can log in sitting at their home and apply for any university they want to apply for. If the university accepts the electronic version of the reporting, they can do it from the comfort of their home, and it's free of cost for them. For a courier, I think for a hard copy is something which we're opening up pretty soon, but they don't have to move out of their residence to apply for a, we call it additional TRF, additional test report form. They can, from the comfort of their home, they can go back, log into a website, log into the candidate login section, apply for their additional test report forms, and they're good to go.
Okay. And maybe you can put in a word about also, are the IDP counseling centers also opening soon, or they are?
What I understand, quite a few of them have already opened. In fact, IDP has launched Virtual Office. It's as good as walking into a regular office of IDP. So you'll have those counselors, you'll have destination-wise counselors, you'll have IELTS counselors, and everyone available, waiting for the candidates to come in, have the queries resolved, and even if they want to apply, they can apply it then and there itself. So yes, the physical offices are opening up. Having said that, our virtual offices are available across. So just walk in. It's a very good experience. I'm sure all of you would love that.
Sure. Let me move ahead now. Let me give you a quick introduction to our counseling service. So Shiksha does have online counseling service. We've been running this for the last 4 years. And we help students apply to universities across the globe. One of the unique features of our counseling service is that students can come and leave reviews. Everybody's free to drop a review, and you can go and see the reviews. We've got many reviews, good reviews, and maybe you could understand the kind of quality that the counseling service that our counselors are providing.
Earlier as well. I think half an hour is a good enough time to take care of all the procedures at the test center. In fact, since we have reduced the capacity by half, we are just ensuring that minimum. So instead of 10 people, now only 5 people going in that slot. So half an hour is a good enough time to take care of the procedures, whatever we need to follow. So at this point, I don't think it is required. So even if the students come before half an hour, I think that is totally fine. They don't have to actually come before that.
Okay. Varun, would you like to add to it?
As of now, we don't see any reason why students should come early. They should come as per the defined timeline, which is nearly half an hour before the test time. Sorry. And when we start off PB, the paper-based test, we'll certainly get in touch with the students. As of now, we do not see any reason why they should come in early for a test.
Okay. So my next question is to all 3 panelists. A lot of students are asking this even in the live chat. Will the results of the new test now take more time than usual, or will they be out in the same time? So let me start with Shrikant. What's your take on this?
All right. So the TOEFL IBTs, the version that's taken in the test center, the scores are available in approximately 6 days after the test date. So, we dropped that scoring turnaround time from 10 days sometime last year. So that is still the case with the test center version. For the IBT home edition, it's a little bit longer. So it's between 6 to 10 days, but it should not take more than 10 days. And that is what we have been seeing. We've already administered tens of thousands of tests in the last 2 months. And in the vast majority of cases, it's been between 6 and 10 days. In some cases, if there is a delay, and the only reason that will happen is if there are some technical issues that prevent the completion of the test, in which case we'll have to go back and so that doesn't mean that we have slowed down the scoring. It's only because all the steps could not be completed.
Right. Yutendra, would you like to add to it?
Sure. Actually, I want to just talk about. We typically actually used to offer the test result in 5 days before, but I'm glad to share with the crowd that most of our test results are out in 2 days now, And a great achievement of 2019 is like most of our test results were out in 1.2 days. So this is the fastest. In fact, we are trying to reduce it further. So most of our test result nowadays, we are saying that it is coming out in 2 days only. So that's something we continue, and we are just committed to, and we are going to see that how we can improve this further.
Sure. So yeah, so PTE used to differentiate itself in terms of quick turnaround time.
Yeah.
Varun, what about IELTS? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, nothing changed. The test result happens the day the way it used to happen earlier. Depending upon which type of test we're giving, a computer delivered test or a paper-based test, the computer delivered, which is on now, we release the result within 5 to 7 days, and invariably we'll do it on the 5th day itself. And that will be the case for indicator as well. So nothing changes as far as result is concerned. We understand that's of paramount importance for our candidates, and it remains the way it was before COVID.
Sure. So yeah, I'm seeing some questions where students are asking, due to COVID lockdowns, is there a possibility of getting the results sooner than earlier, since we are running against the university deadlines? I don't think any of these tests are going to give you a result sooner. What they are promising is that they're going to give you at roughly the same time. We are also seeing, I'm at least seeing two questions related to IELTS indicator, and with some problems people are having related to not receiving the score for IELTS indicator. Could this be one-off, or Varun, are you aware of some delays that are running?
See, there can be one or two cases here and there wherein maybe there was a technical issue, or maybe there was some investigation at the back end, because it's an at-home model which you're working in. So these will be aberrations, not a norm for indicator, and we are on track for test result delivery.
Sure. Yeah, so I think that kind of finishes the set of questions that we had. We were also able to take some questions in between, rather than taking them all at the end. Let me ask one question, maybe one of the last questions, to Shrikant. Shrikant, you've studied abroad. A lot of students are looking to study abroad. You probably studied long time back, but you're still in touch with a lot of students who are coming there. So, and this is an unprecedented situation, right? A lot of students don't know how to behave in terms of, should they postpone their coming abroad? Should they defer their decision to the spring or fall? Will it be safe to study in the US and other countries? So, as somebody who's been there, done that, what generic advice would you have to offer?
Right. Thank you for that question, Simran. I think students should think about this as a temporary situation, right? I mean, not just India, but the whole world has experienced something that we've all never experienced before. But this is only temporary, and it will pass. It'll pass in the next few weeks, few months, but it will pass. So I think the most important advice I would give to students is stay with your long-term plans. Don't let the events of 2 months or 3 months change what you want to do for the next 30 years. Have the faith, have the confidence. Whatever destination that people had chosen to study abroad in, those destinations are still attractive, whether it's the US or Australia, or Canada, wherever it is. And things that are happening in these countries are also temporary, right? And being here in the US right now, I can certainly attest to that. I know that, like other countries, the US is facing some challenges on the COVID situation. And there's also been some other events recently that might, raise some questions. But on the ground, nothing has changed. Life still goes on normally. America is a very, very welcoming place for students all around the world, especially from India. There's a very strong Indian American community here. India is the second largest source of students from the US. Indian students and Indians are highly respected in the US. Universities, without exception, are very welcoming, and they have a lot of resources for Indian students to succeed. Simran, in my experience, I've been here in the US for almost 20 years now, right? I came here as an international student myself, right, to get my MBA. I've not seen one Indian student here who has come here and has not succeeded, whatever their goals were. And I can tell you nothing has changed. So I would advise students to look past the immediate events and the news of the day and look at the US or any other country in a long-term sense and continue with their dreams and plans.
Sure. That's a great note to end, I think. Just to summarize what Shrikant was saying, don't change your long-term plans because of the short-term situation that we are all caught up in. This situation will gradually improve and hopefully go away sooner than later. So with that, I would like to thank our panelists, Shrikant, Jitendra and Varun, for taking time out and coming and answering the questions. Also like to thank our viewers who've joined us. And I hope if you have any unanswered questions, you can always write into us at studyabroad@shiksha.com. You can also WhatsApp us on the number 99588488355. With that, I would like to end today's session. Thank you very much, Shrikant, Jitendra, and Varun for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Simran. Thank you, Hitendra. Thank you,
Pleasure.
Varun.